Manchester United have admitted they do not want to sack Erik ten Hag as the noise around his future just won't go away. Ornstein provides a big update on his future, and are we just delaying the inevitable? This plus all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video and let's jump straight into it. So as you can imagine, Talk of the Town is all about the manager. That seems to be the kind of noise and the stories that are all going around at the moment. We've had some updates from some credible sources, no more credible than David Ornstein himself has come out and provided some interesting updates. We've got news on replacements as well. So we'll go through who said what and kind of give a summary of where we're at with the whole kind of manager situation. So David Ornstein was doing an interview with NBC Sports and had the following to say when asked whether they so are they available candidates? So David Ornstein said, I'm not aware of them speaking to other candidates like they did over the summer, and it would be negligent of them, like any other club, to speak to other candidates if a change were to occur, but I don't get the feeling that they're at that point just yet. If a change were to be made, and I'm uncomfortable to say this because meaning Ten Hag, is still in a position. So what David Ornstein was effectively saying there is that there are no conversations going on with Manchester United and other managers currently, and I'll go through the updates on potential replacements at the moment. And David Ornstein is the most credible journalist for me when it comes to football news, and if David Ornstein isn't hearing that Manchester United are speaking to other managers, then that's as good as there's no more credibility than David Ornstein, in my opinion. So what he's saying is that we're not speaking to other candidates, and the feeling is they might not be there just yet. He also said, when asked if this is potentially Erik ten Hag's last game in charge, he said it could be, of course, but no decision to sack him yet. And the feeling you get from conversations around Old Trafford for now all remains calm. They do want him to continue because they've clearly invested in him. Rumours he has lost the dressing room is not accurate. The tension is clearly growing and the attention is on him. So again, David Ornstein suggesting, with a really good couple of updates there as well, suggesting that the United hierarchy and everything are calm regarding the situation. He's not the first person that said that as well. I think it was Laurie Whitwell. And a couple of other sources last week were saying that the kind of board and everyone are calm regarding the situation, and that Ineos do want to kind of continue with him because they've invested heavily in him in the summer, but clearly admitting that the tension is growing around the place, and rightly so as well, based on the performances and the results so far this season. And the reports that he's lost the dressing room are not accurate. So Ten Hag still has the support of the players, and I think you can kind of see that. I don't kind of agree with this whole narrative around players down in tools. Like, you can see on the pitch sometimes that yes, there are players that are out of form, but I don't necessarily think they're not working hard or they're not trying. Do you know what I mean? I think that personally there's a bit of a conflict around the messaging and the style of play. That's what I kind of think's going on. I don't think it's the players are not wanting to play for the manager. I just think they're confused around the tactics, or don't believe in the tactics, or something's kind of happening, because when we play a certain way, we look okay, but when we try and play a different way, then we're just all over the place. And then Rob Dawson, who's a good source, said that Manchester United have privately admitted they really don't want to sack Ten Hag. He didn't say that they won't. He just says that they don't want to. And again, that might be linked with Ornstein's kind of report saying that they've invested a lot in Ten Hag. So whether they want to or not, or whether they will or won't, again, just remains to be seen. And then Mark Ogden, who's a good source, said that this draw at Aston Villa might keep him in a job for now, but if Ratcliffe and his Ineos team decide to show yet more patience, the reality is they would surely only be delaying the inevitable. And Matt Ogden also went on to say that Ratcliffe and his Ineos team have a planned board meeting at United on Tuesday, so Ten Hag's position will undoubtedly be a matter for discussion. But at this stage, the most likely outcome will be that Ten Hag limps on in the hope that results and performances improves. And there was apparently a meeting in Manchester today. So again, I'll keep my ear to the ground regarding any updates there. But the kind of latest then regarding that, so a couple of credible sources there, again, no more credible than David Ornstein, suggesting that they're kind of calm. They don't necessarily want to sack Ten Hag. He's not hearing that we're talking to any other managers at the moment as well, which might be a tell, although obviously there are reports that Ruud van Nistelrooy would potentially be appointed interim, so there might not be the need to speak to a manager yet. So I wouldn't necessarily read too much into that, because they might not start talking to managers until they've actually made the decision. But and then obviously Mark Ogden saying that, the likelihood is that they're going to limp on with Erik ten Hag for the foreseeable, with the hope still that we can kind of turn our fortunes around. But it is what it is. So it's going to be, I don't know whether Ineos, because they haven't done this before, will actually make like an announcement if they're going to keep him or not, or whether they're just going to keep this charade going, because the questions are always going to be there around Ten Hag. Yes, I know we had Barada kind of backing him, was it last month, but the results have been mixed since then. So we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. But let me know what you think about the whole kind of manager situation in the comments. Let me know if you're still behind the manager. Let me know if it's too late for you, if you're kind of Ten Hag out. Let me know down below. Now, in terms of possible replacements, there's been a few updates on that if they do decide to remove Ten Hag. So the Mirror, in terms of the cost, firstly, the Mirror was saying it would cost United around £15 million to sack Ten Hag. It's been a bit of mixed news around that. We've had 17 million, we've had 15 million. Ben Jacobs before was saying it might be closer to £5 to £7 million. So difficult to kind of know exactly what the kind of cost would be. But David Ornstein again said that the idea that Manchester United can't afford to sack Erik ten Hag due to financial fair play is not true. It will be expensive, but it's doable if it gets to that point. But they hope not. So again, Ornstein kind of saying that the United will be okay with financial fair play if they were to remove Ten Hag, but they're not quite at that stage yet, according to him. In terms of replacements, obviously I mentioned Ruud earlier. So again, David Ornstein was saying that reports that Ruud van Nistelrooy is a Manchester United appointment in case Erik ten Hag goes is not true. So which is interesting. He was an Erik ten Hag appointment, so there may be some loyalty issues. So that kind of dispels the myth or the rumours that Ineos bought in Ruud van Nistelrooy with the idea that he could become interim if they were to get rid of Ten Hag. Again, no more credible sources out there than David Ornstein. So if David Ornstein says that that's not true, then I genuinely believe that personally. Obviously, you can make your mind up or you can do your research. That's why I put the slides on the screen so you can kind of see them. But yeah, interesting kind of point on Ruud. And this all came about because I don't know if you've seen it. It was over the weekend. There was a report from the Mirror, which was basically suggesting that Ten Hag is worried about being seen as betraying Erik ten Hag if he was to be given the interim job and if Ten Hag was to get sacked, because he's a loyal person and he doesn't want to be seen as, stabbing Erik ten Hag in the back effectively. There was a report, the same report actually was saying that there seemed to be a bit of tension between Ten Hag and Van Nistelrooy as all the speculation grows. So again, whether that's because it's being driven by the media, so there is this kind of, bit of tension that's being like between the two because of all the media noise. Who knows? We'll have to keep an eye on that one as well. But the source, effectively the report was saying that Van Nistelrooy is a principled guy. He felt betrayed at Eindhoven and he would not want to be viewed as the man who went behind Erik ten Hag's back. So, but again, have to wait and see how that one kind of develops. Now, there was news last week regarding Enzaghi being offered the job, which I did say to take with a pinch of salt, and that I didn't really trust the credibility of the sources and wanted to wait for more credible sources to kind of come out. Well, two credible sources basically saying that story was nonsense. Fabrizio Romano said there's nothing ongoing between Manchester United and Simone Enzaghi. In the future, we'll see, but for now, nothing. And then David Ornstein said Simone Enzaghi was slightly surprised by reports saying he was offered the Manchester United job. He doesn't even speak English. So again, I think we can kind of put those rumours to bed. Whether they'll look at him in the future, who knows? But currently, Enzaghi rumours were nonsense. As I mentioned, that's why I said take him with a pinch of salt, because I didn't necessarily believe the credibility. Samuel Lucas has said that Manchester United are lining up Thomas Tuchel as a potential replacement for Erik ten Hag. Now, there have been credible kind of reports. I think it was the Muppeteers that were saying that if it was down to Sir Jim Ratcliffe, then Thomas Tuchel would probably be manager at the moment, but he's not necessarily making the decisions. He's going off with the recommendations of Barada, Dan Ashworth, and Jason Wilcox. But again, and Samuel Lucas is a credible source. He's a shit stirrer sometimes, but is kind of well connected when it comes to Man United, saying that they're potentially lining up Thomas Tuchel as a replacement. And then Alex Crook from TalkSport, who I would say take with a pinch of salt, not the most credible, has suggested that Thomas Frank is also a potential candidate if Manchester United decide to part ways with Erik ten Hag. He had admirers at the club as well. So, so overall, the main talk of the town, the main noise at the moment is all regarding Erik ten Hag and his future. Apparently, there's an emergency meeting in Manchester today. We know that Joe Glazer and all the kind of chief executives and owners and everyone is due to have a meeting in London tomorrow. The main kind of sources, though, are suggesting that at the moment, the situation is still quite calm. I don't think they're going to rush to a decision when it comes to it. Obviously, they're going to have that conversation and see where we go, whether they'll just give him a little bit more time because they don't want to be seen as sacking a manager this early into a season. But obviously, I don't think they're blind to what's kind of happening and what the kind of problems are, but whether they're going to, ride it out and see how we get to the next international break, which I think is in November or the end of November. Who knows? But I don't think they're going to come out and publicly back him at all, though. It's not Ineos' style. They've not really come out with any statements or anything like that at all. So I'd imagine it will just be, we'll just not hear anything. And then we could just assume that he's kind of been, that nothing's really kind of going on and they're just going to review it again in the future. But who knows? But again, let me know how you feel about the kind of manager situation. And then in terms of possible replacements, it's still likely that Van Nistelrooy, if he were to go down that route, Van Nistelrooy as interim, and then looking at other options. The other options are Thomas Frank's been linked. We've had Thomas Tuchel. So interesting. We'll just have to see what kind of happens and what the kind of decision is. Now, in terms of why they would look to replace Ten Hag, with 8 points, Manchester United have recorded their lowest points total after the first 7 league games since 1989 and the 1990 season. And only once in the 97-93 season have United scored fewer than 5 goals in their first 7 matches. They have failed to score in their last 3 matches, and no United player has scored more than 1 league goal during the current campaign, which is terrible, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? It is absolutely shocking. And the mad thing is like our expected goals last season, or our whole kind of XG. So when you look at the kind of data, our expected league position last season was 14th. We actually overachieved on our XG last season by finishing 8th. And we're currently sat in 14th at the moment in the league. And that's the kind of worry for me when it comes to Erik ten Hag, is that nothing has changed from last season. In fact, statistically, we're now kind of underperforming on the XG, where last season we overperformed to finish 8th, and the excuse of the injuries and stuff is just not there. Yes, we're missing, we've missed Luke Shaw, and you could say Højlund, but again, we're not really creating chances for strikers anyway up front, so it's a little bit of a, it's a bit of a weird one. I still, I've always been of the opinion, well, two opinions. I think if you Ten Hag out, you're right, and if you Ten Hag in, you're right, because there's arguments for both, and I think both are valid kind of arguments. For me, I just don't want to start another rebuild when we've not even done a rebuild. And while it's saying that the players have knocked down tools and he's still got the back in the dressing room, there is always still that question in the back of your mind: is it the players? Is it the manager? At the moment, I'm kind of tipping more towards it is the manager and the tactics, because nothing's changed from this season to last season, apart from like a couple of games. I think against Fulham we played a little bit better. There was a half against Brighton where we played a little bit better. Moments in games where we played, but not consistent, not for anything. And then obviously the Villa game, we've just reverted back to type. But yeah, we need to wait and see. So the reports are currently, just to summarise, everyone's calm. They're not talking to other managers. There are other managers that have been linked with us though. But at the minute, it's not no decision's been made. Obviously, we've got a big couple of days in terms of meetings with Sir Jim and all the hierarchy. Whether we'll hear anything from that, I'll keep you updated. So make sure you subscribe for that. But let me know what you think about that in the comments. Don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out, and I will see you in the next one.